This is Montreal Now with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall. CJAD 800.
That is James MENNIE over at the Montreal Gazette. And Jim, the good news is I have a clip today from our good friend Yves-François Blanchet. Because he's always fun to listen to and then try to understand exactly what he means. And today's is no different. So in the context of Jean Charest and the potential leadership of the Conservative Party, and that may happen, who knows, before this week is done, Yves-François Blanchet was asked about that today, and this is what he said.
There are some very, very good hockey players. Sometimes they know what to do with the puck, and sometimes they hit you in the back. Mr. Charest, however, was the person that first promoted the idea of a carbon market between California and Quebec, and who is the worst enemy of this market between California and Quebec is the Conservative Party. So what the hell is he going there?
What? Help me, Jim. Well, I'm lost. I'm sorry.
Well, it's okay because one of the apps I have on my computer when I talk to you is I have a universal translator. And I have a separate setting that actually says Yves-François Blanchet.
Blanchet mode. Okay,
Blanchet mode. And what he basically says, and he's making, I think, a mistake that a lot of other people are making in Canada's other official language as well, that Jean Charest is looking to lead the version of the Conservative Party of Canada that we see today. The one is being led, has an interim leader right now, who likes to have herself photographed in a MAGA hat, who basically, this party is really, at least publicly, is espousing what seems uncomfortably familiar noises that the GOP in the U.S. makes, the Trump-controlled GOP makes. Listen, Jean Charest is supposed to meet tomorrow night with the caucus, which I think is an achievement in itself. It'll be interesting to see how many people actually show up. But believe you me, and honestly, if it wasn't for this war we have going on, I'm sure this story would be getting a lot more attention. I think if Jean Charest gets the same cold shoulder, gets the same rigged game that he was confronted with in 2019 when the party gave Andrew Scheer the HEPO as leader, you are going to see a split in that party. You are going to see a lot of progressive members of that caucus say, listen, I'll sit as an independent. I will sit as, we can rebrand or do whatever. And a lot of political orphans in this country, people who are conservative by nature, but not Harper conservative or Trump Republican by inclination, are going to say, fine, because I want to support a party that is more red Tory. And you'll probably end up seeing as well some people who support the Liberals and think that perhaps the Liberal Party is going in the wrong direction under Justin Trudeau, who I got to tell you, if it, pound for pound, he is becoming as centralized and controlling of the party as Stephen Harper ever was of the CPC. And I think you're going to see some people in the Liberal ranks, maybe not caucus members, but certainly Liberal supporters turn around and say, maybe I want to give this guy a look. It all, of course, depends on Jean Charest. He had, what some would say an amazingly coincidental break this week when UPAC, for God's sakes, UPAC finally announces, that investigation into liberal financing, into Quebec liberal financing that we've been doing for 8 years. Well, apparently, we gave it to some lawyers to look at, and there's nothing there. So we're dropping the investigation, and we have to point out as well that Mr. Charest has also slapped, I think, a $1 million lawsuit against the Quebec government for the, how can I put it, the leaks that occurred, a lot of headlines over those 8 years that contained Jean Charest's name, but ended with a question mark, which is always a dangerous game to play. So, I think we should keep our eye on Jean Charest, but also keep an even sharper eye on the gravitational forces that hold together this incarnation of the Conservative Party of Canada and see if it holds together. Right now, it is doomed. And you and I have been having this conversation, Aaron, long before Jean Charest stepped up on the stage again. But this is a party that seems relentlessly convinced its future lies in being a regional rump, on being a party of the West, the Bloc Québécois version of Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. much in the same way as the Bloc. At least the Bloc takes its marching orders from whatever provincial party's in power in Quebec, unless they're Liberal. So now we have, we can say that François Legault actually has a mouthpiece in the House of Commons. He will not, Monsieur Blanchet will not deviate from the CAQ party line. So it's going to be interesting to see how Jean Charest proceeds through this particular week. I think it's going to be a very important week for Jean Charest,
sure.
An even more important week for the CPC, because honestly, if it's not Jean Charest, if it has to be somebody else, I think a lot of Quebec Conservative MPs have crossed their Rubicon, and they've turned around and they've made it. Certainly, the interim leadership has made it clear they're not welcome in the executive of the party. And when I see someone like Gérald Deltel, who has been a good CPC soldier from day one, who at one point, when he was with the ADQ in provincial politics, described Jean Charest as a godfather. And no, I'm not talking about the nice way, but perhaps the more, how can I put it, media version of the godfather of the Liberal Party. He's apologized for that publicly, privately, and then he turns around and says, Jean Charest is the best guy to lead the Conservative Party of Canada. Something's up.
Well, yeah, what does that say about anybody and everybody else?
Well, I think it's perhaps a call to, and I still think there are actual progressives in the CPC caucus to say, listen, you can hitch your wagon to these guys who seem only capable of heading west and imitating with every passing day increasingly American Republicans, or you can try to go back to what the progressive conservatives used to be. I don't care what the label is, and we can have some future there. But as long as the status quo exists, we're talking about maybe not majorities, but we're talking about perpetual liberal governments in the near and medium term.
So just one quick question on this, Jim, which is, so yes, we're talking about Jean Charest. Yes, we've been talking about Pierre Poilievre. Are you surprised? Because I kind of am. We haven't even heard a third name really seriously bandied about.
I think part of that is even within the caucus itself, they believe they saw what happened with Charest the last time. All of a sudden, no, you have to have your members signed up by this date. There's a suspicion that if you open your mouth, especially for Charest, and if the rules get rigged to deliberately keep him out, you will have an X by your name by whoever winds up getting that leadership. A lot of people think it's a lead pipe cinch for Poilievre. A lot of people think he's got it in the bag, and that's why no one else is stepping up. And, Peter MacKay, I know his name always comes up, but honestly, I think apart from sniping at the sidelines, let's face it, Jean Charest, who is worlds away from the conservative establishment, we're hearing a lot more about him these days than we are Peter MacKay. So I got to tell you, it's going to be an interesting week for the future of the party and for Jean Charest.
Okay, real quick on Ukraine, we heard she's actually speaking now one more time because it seems every day Canada is ready to impose new sanctions on this. I'll just tell you what I think right off the top. It's great that we're doing this, and I think clearly people support what the government is doing federally on this. But I wonder, when you impose sanctions, and she's talking today, and I'm speaking of Chrystia Freeland, she's talking about, in coming days. And I'm thinking to myself, in coming days, this case could be done tomorrow. What are we doing? Yeah.
And you're quite right. I think the next 24 hours are crucial. As you were interviewing that gentleman who was in Kyiv earlier in the show, I was listening, and as he was talking about those banks, I'm following about 3 or 4 journalists who are embedded in Kiev who said exactly the same thing at the same time. You got to hope that Putin's going to blink. You have to hope that between Ukraine holding out and Russia holding out, you have to hope that when the pounding comes, Ukraine, and so far they've given every indication they're willing to do that they're the ones who will hold fast. But you're quite right. As quickly as all of this has been happening, it's not happening quickly enough. And I think to a certain extent, people like Madam Freeland and the leaders of other nations, especially in NATO, they don't want to go too far over the top. There have been calls to provide aircraft to Ukraine, which several countries have refused because they realize that's a big step up. It's one thing if you're giving them ground weaponry. Aircraft in this century, in this day and age, are extremely destructive, and that's why you've seen so few of actual fighter aircraft from the Russian Air Force involved thus far. And I think there is a dawning concern on the part of several leaderships, and perhaps Canada as well, that we keep making references to World War II with this invasion. I think a lot of people are concerned we don't want to trip into the war the way we did in World War I. And I think perhaps people are hitting the brakes, taking a deep breath before they make announcements. And, of course, they need to see what the hell and know what the hell is going on in Russia. Because even though they're doing a good job of hiding it, that country, the world, has got its hand around Russia's throat right now.
James MENNIE at the Montreal Gazette. Thank you, Jim.
Adama.